Merkel Media.
This was all circulating around the base that a giant had been killed, but no one was supposed to talk about it.
I saw 3 long, bony fingers reach up underneath the door, curl up to grab it, and then disappear.
When he came over to me, dude, he slithered over to me.
And this giant comes out of the cave, and they're all frozen. And he starts running and firing at this giant. Well, the giant moves. He's got a spear in one hand, and he's running really fast and spears Dan and holds him up like this. Somebody yells, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face. They basically decapitate him.
Got closer. When he got about 15 yards away from me, I raised that 12 gauge and I blowed his head off.
I feel something pulling at my leg, and I look over and there are 2 small gray entities pulling at me. And they're literally, I'm getting pulled off the bed.
I reached my hand into this bush and I touched air. Couldn't breathe and I couldn't move because I know I'm seeing a monster.
To the Confessionals, I am your host, Tony Merkel. Thank you for being here. If you've had an encounter or a story you'd like to share on the show, go ahead and shoot me an email. My email address is theconfessionalspodcast@gmail.com. That's theconfessionalspodcast@gmail.com. Or go to the website, theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the connection section, and you can reach me that way as well. Either way works for me, just get a hold of me. Now this week we have Jack here with me. The guy who was supposed to be here last week he finally made his presence known a week late, but hey, I guess beggars can't be choosers. Jack, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for throwing me under the bus last week. I appreciate it.
Hey, I doubt you even listened to the show, so you know.
I heard it. You pointed it out to me. I got to make sure I listen to these things now, so.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you say you're going to come on and you don't come on and you push it off 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, you say that you didn't push it off on Monday, but I think you did.
I gave you the update. I said, hey, Monday's good for me, and you were all, we'll see. I don't know. Monday's too late for me. Well.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyways, you're here, and we're going to have some fun with you, buddy.
Yeah.
So we got some things that we want to talk about, and one of the things I just kind of want to jump in with is this local UFO sightings that we've been having here in Pennsylvania. So I think about 2 weeks ago, Jamie King, he was on my show not too long ago, him and his wife, Jamie and Jenny, and he posted a link on Facebook about UFO sightings in Pennsylvania in the year 2018. So it's basically a recap of last year's UFO sightings. I sent you this article, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're talking about the 77 spotted UFO sightings?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this article I found very interesting. One of the things that really popped out to me is, I'm here in the Philadelphia area, and a lot of these sightings were not too far from me. I mean, a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them, Montgomery County and things like that, which are definitely close to you. So that was definitely interesting.
Yeah, you would think that these sightings are going to be, I don't know, out in western Pennsylvania, somewhere more rural where there's less light pollution and things like that. But a lot of these were in the Philadelphia area, a lot of them. And so I was kind of shocked by that. And because I was thinking, I figured I'd skim the list real quick, see if anything popped out to me. And my Lord, a lot of things popped out to me. Now, one of the things that I think is pretty interesting is it says here in the article, Pennsylvania communities with the most reported sightings in 2018 were Philadelphia,
which was number one.
At five reports.
Yeah.
Number 2 was Lancaster and Pittsburgh at 4 each.
And hold on a second, just real quick, from just those 3 that you've said, those are 3 of the bigger, 2 of the biggest cities in PA. And then Lancaster is another one that's also very large. Even though it is an Amish community, it's still huge. So that's crazy. It's pretty much what you said. You'd think that it would be farmlands, but it's big cities.
Yeah, and that's what I found very interesting is that, you would think that this would be a rural thing. But a lot of these people are seeing these in, bigger cities. So you have Lancaster and Pittsburgh at 4, Greensville, Johnstown, and Millerton at 3, Allentown, Dover, Easton, Hamburg, Langhorne, and Warrington at 2 each.
Yeah.
So those are the top towns. Now, let me just tell you, Philadelphia, obviously, I'm in the Philadelphia airport, or not Philadelphia airport.
The greater Philadelphia area.
I was just thinking about the Philadelphia airport with one of the sightings. But anyways, you got Philadelphia that's number 1 at 5 each. Then you got Lancaster and Pittsburgh, number 4. But what I found interesting was Greensville, Johnstown, Millerton at 3. But the 2s, the ones that each had 2, all of them are south, at least eastern Pennsylvania. I can't identify Allentown, Easton as southeast, but I guess Dover's more central Pennsylvania. But Allentown is a pretty big city for Pennsylvania. You have Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are the 2 biggest cities, and Allentown, I would say, probably has about 100,000 people in it.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's more.
Really, you think so?
Yeah, because I mean, you still have some suburbs of Allentown that are considered Allentown. It's a pretty big area. It covers a pretty big
yeah, you're
area.
right. That's very true. So Allentown, Easton's another big city, but Hamburg.
Yeah.
Now here's something a little, something that I'm sure I don't think I've ever said on the show, but Hamburg is the town that you and I are from.
Yep.
And we both graduated from Hamburg High School. And so Hamburg had 2 UFO sightings. Have you heard anything about that since you live up that way still?
I have not, and I was kind of surprised to see that they were on the top mentions here for, areas with the most UFO sightings. It's 2 for a year, but for a year, that's a lot in my opinion. And it's just pretty cool to see that. But no, I haven't heard anything up my way, so.
Yeah, so you have Hamburg, which is cool, but Langhorne and Warrington. Now, Langhorne and Warrington are in this area. I actually deliver to Langhorne almost every day for my job.
Oh, wow.
And Warrington, I pass around Warrington. I usually don't go to Warrington a whole lot anymore, but I used to go to Warrington last year a ton. My route changed though, but those are very, very populated areas. We're talking about areas that, are suburbs of Philadelphia, and, you have Philadelphia, which I think has like 2 million people in it, but the suburbs probably have 1 million people alone in the suburbs. When you have Philadelphia, you have the city itself, but the suburbs around it are absolutely huge. They're blowing up, and they just continue to grow. So I just found it very interesting that people in these areas that are highly populated are looking up in the sky and they're seeing things that aren't normal, because you see tons of planes. You have the Philadelphia International Airport in South Philadelphia. And I'm like, really? That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's kind of surprising. It's really cool too, because you think it's like you said. I think it's maybe 2 million population for the whole city, but out of 2 million people, you were able to get some sightings from that. I don't know, especially just considering how much people just have their nose to the grind over in our area, our neck of the woods on the eastern coast here. So most times you just wouldn't think that people would look up and see those kind of things, especially in Philadelphia. But it's really cool that we're seeing that kind of activity.
Yeah, and that's just the top cities. Okay, because there's a whole list of cities here that have reported at least single sightings. And I'll name some of them because the ones I'm about to name are ones that are kind of like in this area. I might say some that aren't necessarily in this area, but you have Bensalem, which is, I'd say, probably about 10, 15 minutes from Langhorne. I'm in Bensalem every day. Without a doubt, I deliver in Bensalem. It's one of the biggest areas, or the most heavily trafficked areas for our trucks, because there's a lot of factories and things like that. So there's Bensalem, Bethlehem, and Bethlehem is right next door to Allentown.
Yep.
You have Camp Hill, which is kind of like around... the Camp Hill's around the Warrington area. Not exactly, but I'm just drawing a blank as to what's around Camp Hill, but I know where Camp Hill is.
Yep.
You have Carlisle, which is right outside of Harrisburg. You have Coatesville, Pennsylvania, which is, Chester County. And Coatesville actually has some Bigfoot reports as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, Croydon, we're going to get back to Croydon. I'm in Croydon every day as well. Croydon is like, the next door neighbor to Bensalem. Then you have Delaware Water Gap, which, isn't necessarily this area. Downingtown is definitely in this area, Chester County. You have, let's see here, Harleysville, which is Montgomery County. like I said, Harrisburg. Huntington is also right next door to like the Warrington area. Mechanicsburg is the Harrisburg area. North Wales is like Montgomery County. I mean, these are just town after town after town. Reading, Pennsylvania, which is Berks County, not too far from here, probably about 30, 45 minutes from here. It's just these towns and stuff that I'm looking at. Spring City. I used to live in Spring City. In fact, Spring City is home to Pennhurst. Now, many people probably heard of Pennhurst. It's one of the most haunted locations in Pennsylvania. It was a institution where mentally handicapped people were dropped off literally by their families back in the 1900s. It started, I think, I want to say the 1920s and closed in the 1980s. But the conditions for these people was horrendous. Like these people were being pretty much tortured by some of the experiments that they were doing because they didn't understand mental illnesses and how people were actually born mentally handicapped. And so they were doing weird experiments on them to see if they could cure them of it, but also the punishment and stuff. If kids would act out, and these weren't all kids, some of them were adults, they're all just living together. There was sexual abuse from people who worked there, and then there was patients that were sexually abusing younger patients. It was just a mess. If they were overcrowded, I think they had 2,700 people living there, and they were only set up to have 1,800 people.
Yep.
So they were way overcrowded, way underfunded. They didn't have enough staff. I think they were short like 800 staff members to actually be able to take care of all these people. It was just an awful thing. So that was right there in Spring City, Pennsylvania, which is a small town. I used to live in Spring City.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm just saying, like, some of these towns and stuff are very Willow Grove, Warminster.
State College.
State College.
Yeah.
That's more central Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but I'm just saying those are notable.
Right,
notable
absolutely.
cities.
But I mean, Warminster is right next door to Warrington, like we mentioned. So a lot of these places are very, very close to this area, the Philadelphia area. I found it very interesting that this area is getting these UFO sightings. And I also had my own UFO sightings last year driving down the Turnpike. And what I was seeing is actually described in some of this article. And I know I told you about it and stuff before. But before we get into that, have you ever had any kind of UFO experience?
I haven't, and it's funny because since you've had yours, I drive the Turnpike pretty, not every week, but maybe twice, 3 times a month. And so ever since you've had yours, I keep trying to, take a look up into the sky and see what I can see. I haven't seen anything yet, but it's one of those things that I definitely try and keep an eye out for. And I think that it's important to, because, you just never know. You never know what you're going to find, what you're going to see, what's going to happen. And, it's good to have your own accounts and your own testimonials for these kind of things, just to see what's going on.
Yeah. And I guess it's one of those things where if you're not looking in the sky, you're not going to see anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're not looking, you're not going to see something, but unless it smacks you in the head for the most part.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, man. So one of the sightings now there were several sightings that they actually go into the descriptions. So they listed the towns and stuff, but they actually describe some of these sightings that people were having. And one of the sightings, I could go into some of these because some of them are, the descriptions are around here. Like Harleysville has a description. And it says it lasted about 45 seconds. And that's the kind of cool thing about this article is that at the end of each description, they actually tell you, how long the actual sighting was. Like the Upper Darby area, which is right around the Philadelphia International Airport kind of thing, 8-minute long encounter. Now that's a long sighting.
That's a very long sighting.
So we have, State College, all that stuff. But there is a description in here from Croydon, Pennsylvania. Now, I mentioned Croydon earlier. Croydon had a sighting, and this is the sighting that I'm about to read to you guys. But like I said, I'm in Croydon every day, and I talk to people in Croydon every day. I talked to a guy at one of my deliveries this week and told him about this article and how Croydon had a UFO sighting. And he said, it doesn't surprise me. I've been living in this area for a long time. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens around here. And he said, but at the same time, it could be a tweaker. So,
wow.
Because, Croydon is a small area along with Ben Salem. And it's like a suburb of Philadelphia, but it's like you took the hood out of Philadelphia and put it on the outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
okay.
I mean, it has its issues, but this guy's description says, my dog woke me up to go out in the backyard. I got up and left him outside and proceeded onto my deck in the rear of my yard. While I was waiting for the dog, I noticed a large circular, whitish or silverish object on my left moving from north to south. The object was moving very slowly just above the treetops and making no sound. The object was approximately 100 to 200 feet from me. The object did not emit or have any lights as a normal aircraft. I was astonished at what I was witnessing, and as I watched the object proceed in front of me, as I was facing southeast, the object turned upward 180 degrees, where it seemed to stand or end for a moment. It was then that I saw the object appear to have a different shape, such as the shape of a boomerang. Then suddenly, and remember that, circular, then go into a boomerang. Then suddenly, and without a sound, the object disappeared directly upward and was out of view within seconds. Now, he says here, after the object disappeared, I heard an odd growling noise near where the object disappeared, and my dog began growling. I hurried my dog back in the house, and my dog would not leave the rear side sliding door. So that's really interesting. What's your first thoughts on when you hear that?
I don't I don't even know what to say. It's intense, and first of all, it says the duration was only 30 seconds. It sounds like that might be an average, I would assume, length of time for a UFO sighting. But that's really intense to be able to see that much detail, and just be able to give that much of an account, especially the shapes. Very, very thorough on telling you the color and the shape of them, and even which direction they were moving too, from north to south, and then, pointing directly upward at a 180 degree angle. That's just, it's insane, but it's so incredible to be able to have that kind of, account for something. I don't even know what to really give you for that one, though. Yeah,
I understand. I wanted to see if you had any, insight as to what I was reading and stuff, but you're right. The 30-second duration stuff probably is like an average for UFO sightings, I would imagine. I mean, certainly there's longer ones, but I'm assuming most of them are pretty brief. But what I found interesting here was one, let's just go right towards the end here. He said after the object had left that he heard growling, and then his dog started growling. Could that be, a coyote or something like that? Sure. I'm sure that could be something like that, something natural, right? But I found it interesting because recently, I forget where, we've been hearing all over the place, really, people talking about the connection of UFOs with Bigfoot. Stan Gordon talks about it. They talked about it on the film Paranormal Bigfoot, where Bilko Productions did a documentary talking about the paranormal aspects of Bigfoot. And I'm actually on that documentary, so go ahead and check it out on Amazon. Is that what it is? Amazon Prime, right? That's where you can get, Yep. I don't know that stuff, but yeah, so I think it's Amazon. Anyways, figure it out. Google it, right? Paranormal Bigfoot. Anyways, so I found that interesting because, people say that Bigfoot is an alien, things like that, and they talk about those kind of things. But what I really, really found interesting about this was his description of this UFO, because what he described is literally what I saw. So when I'm driving down the Turnpike, I think this was, I want to say it was November, December. I don't think it was October. It was late last year. I'm driving down the Turnpike, heading back to my terminal, and it's dark out. And in my area with the Philadelphia International Airport, even though I'm above Philadelphia, I'm north of Philadelphia, I'm not in Philadelphia, and the Philadelphia International Airport is in South Philly, so it's far away from me. Like if I was driving to the Philadelphia International Airport from where I was with no traffic, it'd still probably take me about 45 minutes. Okay, but that's not that far for the sky, and so you always see the planes coming in while I'm driving down Turnpike. Right. And if you didn't know that there was an airport nearby and you were new to the area, you would think we were getting invaded, because every night, without any interruption, every night there is lights in the sky. It's like these bright lights, and they're in a line and they're perfectly spaced. And you would think, and there's like 10, 12, 15 of them every night.
Right.
And if you didn't know, you would think, oh my God, we're getting invaded. But it's not that. It's just the planes coming into the Philadelphia International Airport. I'm sure there's regulations. You have to be a certain distance away from each other and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Coming in from a certain direction is always the same thing every night. But what I noticed was that this light that I was looking at wasn't part of that. And I just assumed it was a plane or something like that. And so as I started getting closer to it, I started realizing that this thing, it wasn't moving and I was gaining on it. So I drove about 2 miles before I actually caught up to this thing where I gained on it. So and it's not like I was driving that fast. It's just this thing wasn't moving anywhere.
Right.
It was just hovering. And I know the lights it wasn't a tower or anything like that. As I was approaching, I knew that. And so I'm coming up on this thing and I start realizing that this is not a plane. It must be a helicopter. Obviously it's a helicopter. That's what I was thinking.
Right.
And so as I'm coming up on it, I'm looking at it, and that's when I start really kind of paying attention to it. And I noticed that it was in a weird shape. And so my first reaction when I first looked at it, I thought that it was in a triangle shape. And I was like, would you look at that? You know what I mean? I was like, hot dog, I think I got a UFO here, boys. So I was at that point, I was really paying attention to it. And I was like, is this a drone? What is this? And as I'm passing by it, I look out my driver's side window and I'm looking up at it. And it's probably about, I would say 100 to 200 feet off the ground. It looked no longer like a triangle. But the way I described it on my one episode, now, if you guys don't listen to the entire episode in its entirety, you never heard this story, because sometimes I put things as bonus tracks at the end of my show. So after the outro is over, after the music's over, after like a minute of audio silence, nothing, I just come in with extra content. It's random, it's rare, but it happens. And this was one of those times. And so if you listen to the entire episode, you got to hear the story. But as I'm driving down the highway, I'm looking up at it out my driver's side window, and it no longer looks like a triangle to me, but it looks like what I described as a check mark. It looked like a boomerang, like this guy in Croydon described. Yeah. Now, Croydon, where I was to Croydon, was probably about 20 minutes, if that.
Oh, wow.
In fact, I was coming from that area. I know that because I always end my day in Langhorne, Bensalem area. And if you want to kind of visualize this, Langhorne, and then if you go to a little south, it's Croydon, and a little bit more south is Bensalem. And so I was coming from that area and going back to my terminal at the end of the night. So I'm looking out the window here, and now it looks like it's a check mark. So first I described it as like an upside down V when I'm looking up at it. And then I was like, no, that looks like a check mark, because one wing, or whatever you want to call it, one part of it was shorter than the other. That's why I called it a check mark, because you know how like when you make a check mark, the one side's longer than the other.
Right.
That's why I call it a check mark, because literally I've been looking at this as I'm driving by, I would say at least 10 seconds. I'm looking up at this thing and I can clearly see I can clearly see the body of it to the background of the black sky, because you have light pollution around here. So right. It's like you can see things in the sky.
Yeah, it's not, true black.
Right. So it's not true black. And so I can see the outline of this thing, and it's in a check mark. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Right. And so 2 more times after that, I saw it. And within the amount of a month period of time, all around the same area. And I think as far south as I've gone where I've actually seen this thing was like Willow Grove area, which Willow Grove was on this list.
Yeah.
So I passed by Willow Grove on the way back. So, I mean, there's a very real similarity here where this guy saw something that was in a circular shape, and then it transformed into a boomerang. When I first saw this thing, it looked like a triangle to me. Now, I don't know if it looked like a triangle to me, but it was actually a boomerang. But that's the first thing that I thought of when I was looking at it. It was a triangle. But maybe it did shape shift into a boomerang shape. I don't know. But what I do know is what I saw was a boomerang shape. I could call it a boomerang. It was a boomerang shape. And this guy in Croydon says the same exact thing. When he saw this, it was March 20th, 2018 at 3:15 a.m. So it was a long period of time. No, I mean, I can't say a long period of time, but that it's a decent amount of time between his sighting and mine.
Yeah, it's a good few months.
Yeah, it was a decent amount of time. So I just found it interesting that, very similar accounts. And this website, I'll put the website on the description of this week's show. You can look at it on the website, theconfessionalspodcast.com, and check out this website because it has some really good listings here of people's, encounters. And so, yeah, man, I thought it was very interesting just the fact that it was a very similar situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, and like you said, how close it is to where you were, where you go on a daily basis almost, to have that almost same experience. Even though, what his initial report on the object was circular, it still, it still had that kind of shifting in shape when you saw it at different angles. And, you said it was a triangle at first, and it could have just been the boomerang shape, but still, it's so cool to kind of have, it's almost affirmation for yourself that not just you were, it's not just you that had seen this object and in that same area. I think to me, that's really cool. And that's something that, you kind of hope that at some point you get to see those things and have that same affirmation.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, me and Mom saw a UFO, and
Are you serious?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
So we were living in Pottstown, and we were living in the trailer park, and I remember I must have been outside taking the dog out or something like that, and across anybody who listening to this, me and Jack, when we lived in Pottstown, now you were really young.
Yeah.
I mean, you were like 2 or 3 before we moved. So, I mean, you wouldn't remember this, but the trailer park was literally between like cornfields and woods. Like it was just like this big, giant trailer park out in the middle of nowhere. And I remember seeing these lights in the sky, and I'm not going to attempt to describe the shape that they were in, but as an adult looking back, I could see how maybe the lights were on a helicopter. And this body, whatever it was, shot out this beam of light on like probably about a 45-degree angle down, and it was like it was shining into the woods or something like that. Now, again, as an adult looking back, I'd say it's probably a helicopter.
Right.
This thing, and now, mind you, I went through my entire life, my adult life, thinking it was a helicopter until probably like a year ago. I was talking about it with Mom, and she says, "No, that was a UFO. I remember that. That was definitely a UFO." I'm like, "Really?"
What?
And she's like, "Yeah." I'm like,
"Wow,
okay." So, but the more I thought about it, I remember the very weird thing about it was that this thing was out there. Let's just say it was a half mile out there. You could see it, but it was way out there. It came in towards us, like literally towards us, and it happened so fast. Now, looking back at it, that's what caught me off guard. The light shining down was interesting, but it came at us. Probably it covered from where it started to where we were. It was probably, I would say, 5 to 10 seconds. Just no sound whatsoever. It comes up to us, and it's literally almost above us. And I run out to the street because I'm a crazy boy. And I'm like, whoa, Mom's freaking out. She's like, whoa. And so, instead of running and hiding or seeking shelter, we're like,
yeah, you both go towards it.
Yeah. So, I run out to the street, and this thing comes in, and it's literally almost over the trailer park. And then it goes up the street. So it literally changed direction by like 90 degrees instantaneously, and just starts. It came in directly like a beeline right for me and Mom. It came in just about over us, and then it turned and went up the street, and it just gone. It just took off and left.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe you got, I don't know how I never heard this story before.
I could have sworn you had heard it.
No. I would have remembered if I heard that. That's pretty that's an incredible encounter just to have that as, even though it's you may have thought it was a helicopter. I still think that's nuts, man. I don't know how you explain, the quick change in direction and just everything that you saw that night. And Mom was, she's an adult. She had you guys, she had to be in her 30s at least. So, that's incredible. And Mom's not someone who's going to go making up that kind of stuff. She wouldn't just try and get, her claim to fame from that kind of thing. So that's more impressive to me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you're right. Mom wouldn't make it up. And now we can say both our parents saw UFOs. I swear, one of these days I got to get Dad on the show to tell his UFO story from when he was a kid. I know he's hesitant because, he said, I think one time he said to me, doing radio isn't my thing. I'm like, it's not radio, it's a podcast.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. But yeah, man. So that was, some pretty interesting stuff. And that's some of the UFO local stories that we have going on. So like I said, we're going to put the article on the website and you can check it out in the show description on the website. But you know what I want to tell you, man, like I did this video I did a YouTube video probably a month ago. Was it a month ago?
Oh, I think it was about a month ago. Yeah, with the black triangular UFO.
Yeah, the one over the Pentagon.
Yep.
So I did this video, and what happened was the one morning, and you can go ahead and check out the video. In fact, I'll put that on the link too, or on the show description. But so the one morning I was getting ready for work, and I somehow stumbled across this video on YouTube of this black triangular UFO over the Pentagon in DC. It happened just last month. I think it was on December 19th, 2018.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching this video and I'm like, wow, that looks pretty realistic. And then I started looking around. I think the one I saw was in Arlington Cemetery. And then I found another video of somebody else who shot the same thing, same time. And these guys were in a car driving on a freeway near the Pentagon, and they're filming it and they're freaking out. I'm like, yo. So now I have two different videos of the same thing shot by two different people. And so I made this video before I went to work and I put it on YouTube, and people were saying, like, a lot of people liked it and stuff. And, I was just presenting it and I found it interesting. One of the things that people did complain about, though, is I credited the person that originally posted the video on the video.
Yeah.
And the white piece of the crediting, like I took a screenshot of their YouTube channel, I put it on the video. I guess the white part of it kind of made it hard to see the triangle UFO because it was so dark.
Oh, yeah.
Because, it was a very faint triangle, but you could definitely see this triangle rotating around.
Right. Yeah. If you have your brightness or your contrast up, or whatever you're watching it on, your laptop, your phone, whatever, you can see it pretty visibly, if you focus, because it's not, it's not lit up or anything in the videos, but they're both the videos together. When you compare them, it's, you can tell it's the same experience, identical, shape and everything. And that's, to me, that was cool to see you, putting that together.
Yeah, so I found, though, that if you take your thumb and just put it over the white part, you actually can see the triangle UFO better.
Oh.
Because it blocks the brightness from your eyes, and you can actually focus better. Anyways, I posted that video, and a lot of people enjoyed it, but some people were saying that, oh, that's fake, that's CGI. And I'm like, how's it CGI and two people? I guess you could hoax it. You could be,
right.
Same filmer, just make two different YouTube channels and all that stuff. But when you look at the descriptions on YouTube channels, these were nobodies. Like they all had their own videos, and it's just I don't think it was faked. So, but somebody said to me that they sent me an article link saying that some artist claimed that they did it as a demonstration. Some kind of artistic demonstration, and they're like, case solved. I'm like, how is that case solved?
What?
How is that? Like, I'm pretty sure if an artist did some kind of hologram thing over the Pentagon of a UFO, I'm pretty sure that's like, I don't know, a national defense issue.
Yeah.
I think, I don't think you'd be going out there just claiming that you did this. And apparently the artist wasn't willing to do interviews or something like that, but he's claiming it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like you get those kind of things where you're just, it's fishy. What they're doing is fishy. That doesn't sound like it makes any sense to me.
No, not at all. And so what I found interesting, though, is I did that video, and then earlier this week, I had somebody shoot me a video on Twitter, and it's a YouTube video, and I'm not going to play it here because the audio isn't real good, and there's some captions on the video so you can actually read what they're saying. Now, the captions aren't very accurate, whereas what I mean by that is when the person gives the date, they actually say the date. They say December whatever, at 4 something a.m. But the captions don't put the actual day. They say December, and then they give the time, and the time is 4 something p.m. But the person, you can actually hear them say a.m. So the captions aren't the greatest, but you do hear key things with your ear audibly without even having to read the captions. It's a UN conference, all right? So some kind of UN meeting, and you see this person getting up to give a speech, and at the podium, the person about to give the speech, there's a UN logo on it, and like this video starts out with saying that, you know, this was actually, I think in the video you hear somebody giving like announcements. You don't know who's talking, but you hear somebody giving announcements, and it's like, turn off all video cameras, all phones need to be turned off. This is a like secret meeting kind of thing, you know, and whoever was filming this broke the rules, right? And so, but it seems like a very legit room. When you see this video, I'll put this in the website too, so you can all see this. Go check it out. And it's an obvious conference room of sort. And in this room, you see the podium, which is a huge podium, and it has the UN logo on it, you know, which, you know, the flat earthers say it's a flat earth and all that stuff.
Right,
so
yeah.
you can easily identify the logo. But the person that gets up and starts talking says that they have an announcement, and that on December something something at 4 something something a.m. there was a triangle shaped UFO over the Pentagon rotating on its axis. And the person goes on to describe that this UFO actually sent out communications, and that they received communications from this UFO that was hovering over the Pentagon. The funny thing is, and I said this in my video, the very next day, General Mad Dog Mattis resigns or quits or gets fired, whoever wants to say what. But did it have something to do with UFO? I don't know, but I think it's an awful coincidence at least.
It definitely is. That's an eerie coincidence. You never know. I mean, it really could just be that the dude decided to get, you know, either he was fired, like you said, fired, stepped down, whatever it was on that day, or there was some correlation. I mean, you know, especially being, he's the Secretary of Defense. That's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, you know, if something was breached, if there was communication where there wasn't supposed to be, if there was something that, you know, you never know, was pinged up. I don't know what they do, how there's transmitted, you know, information. But if something was done that wasn't supposed to be done and it comes back on him, you know, that could have been it. And that is really just an odd, you know, I guess we'll say coincidence.
Yeah. And so my thing is this. So you have the videos that I talked about last month. I think I made the video this is February now that we're recording this. So December, I made this video, and maybe it's beginning of January. I don't care. It doesn't matter. So,
Oh my gosh.
But I made this video, and, you know, I put it out there. I found it very interesting. And, you know, I'm not saying it was real or it was fake. I personally think it was probably real. Why didn't we hear about it? Why don't we hear about so many other things in the mainstream media? Trust me. Just trust me. The mainstream media has more concerns about Russia and who did this, who did that, Washington. How can we, you know, it's just, they're so full of crap and trying to just either make themselves look good or make somebody else look bad. They have no time to deal with things that I think are more real life issues like this.
Yep.
And so this video that I'm talking about here with the UN, it was clearly filmed from somebody else's screen. So what it looks like is somebody came across a YouTube video and took their phone and filmed it on their phone and then put it on YouTube. Okay, not everybody knows how to, you know, do the downloading thing and things like that. Now, I say that because the person who posted this video that I'm looking at, they only have, as of right now, they have 109 followers. I looked at their channel and they posted like 3 videos other than this one, and they were all like just stupid videos from like when they were in college playing beer pong and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. So this guy really doesn't have much of a channel. He doesn't have a channel, and he posted this video because he found it interesting, obviously. In the description, there's only one thing that's in the description of this video. It says source, and then it gives a YouTube link. So I'm like, oh, sweet, the original source. I click it, and
it says video, what is it? Video unavailable or something like that.
Video no longer exists.
Yeah, no longer exists. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
When I did the same thing, you know, we did it separately too, because I didn't know that you had looked at that too, and I was going to come to you with this and be like, hey, look at this divine revelation I had. But no, I wasn't even sure what to think when I saw that. I went the route, well, maybe this is a fake, or maybe this guy didn't get it from, what he's saying he got it from. But when you made the point to me, maybe it was taken down on purpose. Maybe the source was actually taken down for a reason.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, so this video was like a second copy. Like, it was a bootleg copy.
Yep.
And it wasn't even the full video that you see. Like, it actually cuts off after 2 minutes and 28 seconds. It's over, like, abruptly. The speech wasn't over. It just ended. And so this guy didn't get the whole video. He posted on his channel. The original video is taken down by who? I don't know, but it's no longer in existence. And that I find very interesting, because if it was a fake, if it was a hoax, what does it matter, right? And so what I find interesting here is, if this is real UN stuff, why are they taking it down? Or why, if it's not real UN stuff, why are they taking it down, right? Why would they even feel the need to take it down?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, usually with YouTube, it's one of those things where if it's any sort of government conspiracy or something like that, they always try and find some reason to fault the poster and take it down or demonetize those kind of things. And so, yeah, why would they take it down? Why would it have been, as you said, doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah, and it just kind of, to me, it kind of says, okay, we might be having something here. Now, if anybody watches this video and says, oh, that's from the Scene movie, blah, 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 just let me know. I don't watch TV a whole lot. I don't watch a whole lot of movies. Jack, you can vouch for me. Most people that know me can vouch for me. I don't watch a whole lot of movies.
Yep.
And so if this is from a movie or a TV show, just let me know, because I really don't know. But I don't know why. Maybe if it was a video from a movie, they would take it down because, copyright issues, that might be a possibility, right?
But usually that's what comes up when you search it. Unavailable for, copyright or something like that, where it actually gives you a reason why it's not available anymore. Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing that I'm thinking here is, if this is legit, why is this video that we're talking about still up then? The video that we originally saw.
Yeah, good point.
But there might be algorithms that are missing this, because it's not the full video, and because it's a bootleg copy, it's not an original copy, it's kind of bootleg. Maybe it's not catching it, because I know, like, on YouTube, if you want to play, a song off somebody, or say you want to play a video of somebody else's on YouTube, if you were to change just like one note of the song or something like that, like change the tone and stuff, YouTube doesn't catch it. Like, they can't catch it. I that's what I hear, at least. I don't know, but that's what I heard. And so, why this is still up, I don't know. But I do find it really interesting that this UN conference, if it's real, let's just roll with the idea that it's real.
Right.
Okay. That they're talking about the same thing that I made a video about in December, talking about this triangle UFO rotating above the Pentagon. So I'm going to post my video that I made. I'm going to post this video. Go ahead and check it out. Let me know what you guys think stuff, because I found it, very interesting. Now, lastly here, before we get out here, and this is a long intro.
Yeah.
We originally sat down here to talk maybe 10 minutes and stuff.
Yeah,
and
we said 10, 15 minutes. But
yeah, I mean, when you get one merc in the room, it's 15 minutes. When you get two mercs in the room, it's about 45 to an hour, right? So
yeah, it doesn't double. It triples,
absolutely, because
whatever you call it.
We're no longer talking to ourselves. So
yeah.
But anyways, what we want to do here to wrap things up is I want to talk about, everybody's been sending me this link. A lot of people have been sending me, hey, have you seen this? Hey, have you seen this? And I figured, why not address it? I have seen it. It's the little boy who went missing. He was 3 years old. He was in North Carolina. Jack, why don't you let people know a little bit about this story and the background to this little boy, so in case people haven't heard about it. Now, it's made worldwide news, but some people may not have heard about it.
Yeah, so this happened, I think it was, 5 or 6 days ago now at this point. And, it's during this cold snap that we're having here in the U.S. This was a 3-year-old boy named Casey Hathaway, says disappeared last Tuesday. So, about a week ago. And this was one of those, situations where it was kind of, I guess it was just an odd circumstance that when they found this boy who went missing after playing in their grandparents' backyard, it wasn't a normal kid gone missing and found them. Oh, nothing happened. This was I'll just give you the account that this kid had. He said he hung out with a bear for 2 days. Now, when you think of hung out with a bear, this isn't a Yogi Bear. This isn't, Winnie the Pooh, your friendly neighborhood bear who's going to go into a tree and find some honey for you. This was, when we think about it, it's, the grizzly bear, brown bear, black bear, whatever it is. This area, it would be more black bear, but this is down in North Carolina, and so I don't know exactly what kind of bear they have, but they said specifically in this report that there have been bear sightings. It is an active area for some bear, and so it wouldn't be uncommon for that to happen. However, with bear, especially with humans, the interactions that you have, bear are more timid to come towards human. And so, especially when it's, a child, he'd probably be a little bit more frightened by that kind of creature approaching them. To me, and to what the report seems, it almost seems like people are kind of questioning, was it a bear? And even, some of the reports are saying it could have been an imaginary friend. It could have been, even I think it's his aunt that may have said that it was a miracle that God had sent him a friend to keep him safe. And, when we're thinking about this, one of the main things that pops into our mind is
Bigfoot.
Absolutely. Dun, dun, dun.
Right. So, I mean, but here's the thing, man. Like, so you said the aunt said that she believes that God sent, a friend to keep him warm or whatever, keep him safe. Does that sound crazy to you?
Not in the slightest. I don't think that sounds crazy at all.
Why?
I think people see angels, I would imagine on a constant basis. You hear accounts of those kind of things, but
think biblically.
Who is that? Elisha, seeing the hosts of angels around him.
Think about animals in the Bible.
The talking donkey?
Well, yeah, that happened. Well, I'm thinking offhand, God sending the whale, right? The big fish to swallow Jonah, right? And then there's other situations where in the Bible, especially Old Testament, where animals were sent to go do something. And I don't have any of them referenced. I just know I read about them and stuff. But in the Bible and stuff, it talks about God sending animals to go do things.
Well, specifically in the case of Jonah, you have something that was meant to keep him safe, to keep Jonah safe, but specifically to help him get back to where he was supposed to go. And I think there's a really good parallel there between, just that specific thing. Not that this kid is Jonah or like a prophet or something like that, but animals being commissioned to do those kind of things. It does beg.
You didn't think about that, did you?
No, I didn't. But it does beg the question: was it a bear, though? I can't remember if it was this specific kid's report. Or if it was something else that, another report similar to this one that had mentioned that it was upright and walking on. I think it was a different report, but upright and walking on 2 feet. It wouldn't surprise me if something of that nature happened for this kid, but it wasn't revealed yet. The details of the report haven't been confirmed. The kid's only 3, so he's not going to be, outright telling you every little detail, but. This is, to me, these kind of things are always so interesting. This kid was out in the woods for, I think it was 2 to 3 days, and he wasn't, equipped with winter gear. He wasn't dressed for, long periods of time in the cold, and especially with how cold it was. I think it was, in the 20s or below at that point. It's insane. And what they said here, too, is when they found him, he was soaking wet. He was cold and tangled in thorn bushes. That to me, it says the rescuers had to wade through waist-deep water to get to him. For 2 to 3 days, this kid was in the wild, in the woods, and he was in this sort of circumstance. And then he says he had a friendly bear that was helping to take care of him. Like, what is this?
Yeah, no. There's so many things you need to think about this, because this is a story you just can't think about on surface level. You can't just say, oh, the person, let's not even say his name or how old he was. Let's just say, oh, the person said that a bear protected him. Okay. But when you start adding detail to it, the fact that the weather was like below 20 degrees, it was freezing cold. There was people out there on search parties that have been reported to say that they could barely stand being out there because it was so cold. He was out there for how long, Jack?
2 days.
2 days. 3 years old. 2 days.
Yeah.
In freezing cold air that adults couldn't handle. And what was he wearing? He was wearing shoes, a t-shirt, a light jacket.
Yep.
That's it.
Well, yeah, because he was just outside playing with. It said he was outside playing with some friends for a few minutes, and that was it. It was just supposed to be a quick thing.
I mean, it was supposed to be just a quick thing, and he just vanishes.
Yeah,
and is protected by a bear for 2 days.
Yeah. I wish there was more detail to the story to give you.
Well, he's 3 years old. That's the thing. Like, I hope that when he gets older, he remembers this.
Right. That's my point. Is hopefully some things will come out. That he'll be able to at least maybe remember some more, because how sometimes it's kind of like your UFO story, where your account as a younger kid was trying to rationalize it more to be a helicopter, and as an adult you talk to mom and she tells you that, hey, this was real, this was a UFO. Well, this kid might not, right now see or remember or be able to put into words what he saw or what helped him, but in the future, it could be something more. And, you almost wish that at this point you could hear more, because you just want to get the gist of what was going on. Well,
I reached out to his mom, and I haven't heard back from her, and I doubt I will. I mean, I imagine she's been bombarded with things, but I offered for her to come on the show and talk, because I believe in one of the articles they quoted her or somebody as saying that's close to the family that when you're thinking about what this could have been other than bear, the idea of Bigfoot is starting to rise the list of possibilities.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, I mean, I do find this story interesting, and a lot of people have been talking about it. A lot of people have been sending it to me. So I figured we'd address it today, since we're, kind of chatting here for the first hour of the show.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's more to this story than what we know right now. Even the idea that towards the end of this story, if that's what you want to call it, there was a tipster that called in and said that they heard a kid crying, and that's how they knew to go look in that area. Well, who is this tipster?
Yeah.
If they're wading through water to get to him and he's tangled in thorn bushes, who is this tipster that was so close to hear the kid cry, yet wasn't able to locate the kid? Was it an anonymous tipster?
Wow. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, was there some kind of abduction going on here, where some weirdo dressed in bear clothing or something? I don't know. You know what I mean, though? Like,
there are crazier things, I guess. But as far as what the report said, there was no abduction, or no evidence of an abduction.
Right, and they're pretty firm on that, and that's why I throw that out there. But they're pretty firm on the fact that there was no abduction. So if there was a bear, I mean, you're talking about this being a bear in the middle of hibernation season that wakes up starving, and instead of eating the kid, cuddles the kid and keeps him warm for 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that's a miracle in itself, right?
Definitely.
That really is a miracle in itself. So say it was a bear. Maybe it was a miracle, and God sent that bear to protect that boy until the time came that he could be rescued.
That could be. I mean, you really don't know. It's just no matter how you slice it, it's one of those stories that we just don't have enough to go on right now to get a full account of what of what it could have been. He may not know what anything else besides a furry, creature would look like that would be a bear. That's what he's going on. He's thinking this is a bear, so he's saying it's a bear. But we just don't know enough yet, and I hope at some point more comes out. If she does get in touch with you, that'd be great, his mother. But it seems like there could be a lot more to this.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that he was rescued. He was found, because
definitely.
I'll tell you, when Lindsay was reading the article about this, she was crying, because all she could picture is my son, out there lost and crying for mommy. And when you have a kid, it kind of puts you in a different state of mind. So, it's one of those things where, I find it a very fascinating story, and I'm just glad that Casey is safe, and the idea of him being protected by a bear, it's a miracle. If it was a bear, I think it was a miracle. If it was Bigfoot, then I also think that's a miracle in itself. And, to be determined, right? So I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that we may never know. I really hope that one day somebody can follow up with Casey on more information as he gets a little older. Not like when he's an adult, but maybe 8, 9, 10 years old and stuff. When he's a little older, can describe things better and articulate things more than a 3-year-old. Maybe we could tap his memory and see what he remembers. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I found it very interesting. So before we get out of here, I just want to, before we get onto the interview, I should say, we do have an interview today. Sorry this took so long, but I wanted to let people know that I'm going to be doing something a little different for the month of February. So in January this year, 2019, we had a really good month for the show. We came just under 500,000 downloads for a month, and a very solid month for us. And I want to kind of push the envelope here for February. I am actually not working the entire month of February, and so I'll be working on the show a lot since I laid off from driving truck for the month. And so it is what it is, right? So with that, I'm planning on really working hard on the show, but I wanted to invite people that are listening to the show to help participate in these efforts. And so my goal for February, it's a very aggressive goal. I've never made a goal like this before in the history of the show, but last month we had almost 500,000 downloads. And for the month of February, I'm trying to get up to 750,000 downloads. Okay. So that's $250,000. Yeah. $250,000. I would be driving a truck, right? So, no, but 250,000 downloads more than last month. And if people help me get there by sharing the show, that's the biggest way you can help the show.
Yep.
By hands down, the biggest way is to share this show. So you just take the link to the show, whatever podcatcher you're listening to the show on. You share the link on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. I don't care where you share it. Share it through email newsletters, post it on a bulletin board at work. I don't care where you send it. Memos at work. If you're a supervisor, send it out to the entire company. I don't care. But share the show, because that helps with people listening to the show, gaining more exposure and falling in love with it like people listening right now. And so if we can get to 750,000 downloads for the month of February with everybody's help, I will put out an extra episode in the month of March. So, so instead of having 4 episodes in the month of March every Tuesday, I will put out every Tuesday a show, and one of those weeks I'll put out a bonus episode for everybody to enjoy, to say thank you for helping to get to 750,000 downloads for the month of February. So what do you think about that, Jack? You think it's a good idea?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's it's one of those cool things. You get a little extra bonus content, and it's kind of showing your appreciation for what they've done to help. Yeah. I cool. Like, without the listeners, obviously the show would be nothing.
Absolutely.
And they built the show as much as I've built the show. I'm here turning the knobs and talking and everything like that. But if people weren't listening, I wouldn't be doing a show. So I really appreciate everybody, listening to the show and contributing that way. And let's just do this together for the month of February. If you're listening to the show, the first week, second week, third week, fourth week, however many weeks we have in February of shows. I think it's 4 shows we're putting out in February. Every show, just share it around every venue you possibly can on social media. Like I said, I don't care where it is. You could write it on the back of your car. I don't care. Get creative with it. If you get creative with it and stuff, send me screenshots of where you're sending it. Just tweet it at Confessionals on Twitter. And I'll retweet anything you guys send me as far as you sharing the show. So whether you're tweeting the show, if you put it on Facebook, take a screenshot and tweet it to us at Confessionals on Twitter. And I don't care, wherever you send it. If you make a banner and hang it on the highway, cool.
Oh, wow.
Send me a picture on Twitter, so we'll retweet everything. But let me know you guys are doing and stuff, and let's do this together. If we can get to 750,000 downloads for the month of February, in March, I will put out an extra episode for everybody to enjoy. So, with that said, we're going to bring on Javier. Jack, before we get to Javier, you got anything else that you want to say?
Let's get cracking.
Absolutely. So, Javier, man, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Tony, man.
So you're in Las Vegas, and I don't think these experiences happened in Las Vegas, or maybe they did, I'm not sure. But I know you've had 2 different instances where you've had some paranormal activity going on. One was at a place that you worked at. It was some kind of development disability place. And if you could just kind of go into it with us and share with us what you experienced, man.
Yeah. It didn't happen in Las Vegas. It happened in New Mexico. Actually, the city it's called Las Cruces, which is southern New Mexico, which is nearby El Paso, Texas, which is about, 35 minutes away. But before I go on to the story, I just want to let you know that I've been experiencing a lot of paranormal stuff since, I was 16 or 17. I was probably about, 19 or 20 when this happened. And this was like in 97. But the reason why I'm telling you the story is because it's one of the most terrifying experiences that I've ever had in my entire life concerning paranormal. I was working at this place where I was taking care of people with developmental disabilities. And my job was to stay over at their place. So they had their own homes. So I was assigned to this one particular house, and I had 3 clients. And so I had another job. I was working a job, going to school full time. And this particular job, I started about 8 p.m. So I would stay over from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So my job was just to make sure they take their medication, they go to sleep, and then wake them up for going to work in the morning. One particular guy got up like around 4 a.m. So that was my job there. So I would stay there pretty much every day. And, we would leave each other notes. And when I say we, my coworkers. So we would have coworkers that would work in the morning with them in the afternoon, and then I would take over in the evening. And so we would leave notes to each other, what happened that day or what have you. And it was pretty interesting because we would leave notes, and this one particular guy was always getting upset because the lights were always on. And that was one of the things that we had to do, is make sure that we turn off all the lights at night just to conserve, like electricity and stuff like that. And so I would come into, the house, and once I put him to sleep, I would turn off the lights. But every morning I would wake up and the lights would be on. It wasn't a big deal to me at the time because I'm thinking, we called them clients. Our clients was waking up, turning on the lights. So stuff like that, no big deal. And then, I would get other notes from the coworkers saying, hey, whoever's moving this plant, don't move it, keep it in the kitchen. And because we're trying to get sunlight, because the house was really dark. And sure enough, I would wake up in the morning, and the plant from the kitchen would be moved somewhere else, either the living room or the dining room. And so, again, I was thinking it's the clients. They're the ones who are waking up in the middle of the night, and I'm not noticing. They're either moving the plants or turning on, the lights. And this went on forever. I mean, I was there working in this particular house for about, I would say about 4 months. And it would happen randomly. It wouldn't happen every day. It would just happen randomly. Lights would be on, plants would be moving, stuff like that. So anyways, I couldn't tell you if it was like the 3rd month or the 4th. Yeah, it was about the 4th month that I was there. Something just weird happened where I just woke up terrified. I don't know how to explain it. It was just a weird feeling. I just woke up. It was probably like about, 1 a.m. And because I was able to sleep in that place, so I would put them to sleep and I would just sleep in the couch. But I woke up just very, very terrified. I mean, I was so scared to the point where I thought I was going to die. And I don't know why. It was just one of those weird feelings. And I was so scared that I had a bike, because I would ride my bike to their place. And I left. I was just terrified. I don't know what it was. I felt like there was somebody looking at me or staring at me and just wanted to kill me. That's the thought that I had when it happened. And so I took off, and and I wasn't supposed to do that. I could have been fired, for doing that if they were ever to find that. And I took off, and I don't know why. I just started riding my bike home. I was so scared to be there. And the weirdest thing, as I was riding my bike, I can see or hear a crow behind me. and I knew it was a crow. And it was just following me. And so I would stop my bike, the crow would land, and it was probably about, I don't know, 30, 40 feet away from me. And it would just sit there, and I would start to ride my bike again, and it would start to fly again. So that freaked me out, and I kept on riding my bike, and I was going home until I finally passed this one particular street, and all that fear just went away. And I stopped my bike, and in my mind, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you can't be leaving your clients alone, that you're going to lose your job kind of thing. And so, sure enough, the crow is just sitting there, and I'm just staring at it, and it just flies away. And so all that fear just kind of went away. And I just rode my bike back to, the client's house, and I couldn't sleep that whole night. So that was one incident, and I don't know to this day why I had that fear. So probably about a few weeks later, I'm sleeping in the couch. The clients are asleep, and I was getting really paranoid at the time because I had to wake up in the morning to wake up one of the clients to go to work around 4 a.m. And so I would have to, make sure that I wake up and knock on his door and make sure that he starts to get ready, because another coworker would come over and pick him up around 5 a.m. So that morning, I woke up paranoid, because I thought, oh my God, I just missed, it's like 5 a.m. or something like that. He's going to be late to work or whatever. And now the place is really dark, and I had the alarm clock on top of the TV set. It was an old TV. And it was one of those alarm clocks with red, with the red numbers. And I couldn't really see the time because I just had woken up. My eyes are still kind of blurry. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I thought for sure, okay, I was like totally, happy that I didn't miss his alarm at 4 a.m. But as I was looking at the alarm clock on top of the TV, I could see a figure to the right of the TV. It's like in a hallway, basically. It was like a hallway. And I couldn't tell what it was. It looked like a person. It was tiny, and one of my clients was tiny, so I really thought it was him, I called out his name. I forgot what his name was. And, I got no response. Now, keep in mind, this house is super, super dark. So it's like you can't really see much. So I'm sitting there trying to have my, get my eyes adjusted. And I saw the most scariest thing in the entire world. It was a monk. It was a tiny monk. It was, if I had to give it a description, it was a midget. And he had pretty much like a cape on and just like a monk, hood. And I couldn't see his face. The only thing I can see was his hands. And they were in a praying position, and he was bobbing up and down. I mean, I was terrified. I ran to the door to the, in front of in the living room to try to get out. I was so scared. I couldn't even open the door. I mean, I couldn't even, it was just really difficult to even unlock the door. I mean, it took, in my mind, it took like a minute, but I know it wasn't a minute. It was probably like seconds. But at that point, when I was fidgeting with the door, I looked to my right to see if that thing was still there. And sure enough, it's still there, just bobbing up and down with his hands in a praying position. And I got more terrified because at that point, my mind started processing what was going on, because initially I had seen him from one position or in a different angle. And then now that I'm at the door, I can actually see his side profile. So now my brain is processing, okay, this is real and this is a real guy. This is a real thing. I'm like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. And so I finally unlocked the door, finally opened the door. Once I opened the door, I looked back. The thing disappeared, reappeared, disappeared, reappeared, disappeared. And it was just really quick. It was just, I thought I was dreaming. Opened the door, ran outside, and I was just breathing really hard and just like, I can't believe what I just saw. It was just one of those things where it's like, I just can't believe what I just saw. So I was just out there, for a good 15 minutes, trying to process, what happened. And I'm terrified. I don't want to go back inside the house. I'm just, this is insane. And I finally got the courage to go back inside. But so what I ended up doing when I went inside, I left the front door open, wide open. And the weird thing, there was a full moon that night. And so I was able to see light come in from the door. So I walked in. He wasn't there. And I say it's a he. I don't know why, but I'm assuming that it was a he. And I didn't go in fully into the living room. I was just standing there, just kind of looking around and make sure there's nothing going on. I mean, I was really terrified. And so, okay, I kind of just justified everything. I said, okay, maybe it was a dream. I don't know what's going on. So I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the TV. Anything to distract me. So I went, now keep in mind, I was watching TV prior to that. I went to sleep and I turned off the TV. So anyways, I went to the TV, turned it on, and it wasn't working. It was just snow, white snow. And, the first thing that comes to your mind is Poltergeist, right? And you're like, oh my God, what the hell? So I'm changing the channels and the TV is not working. There's no channels. Any channel that I would change to, just white snow. Now, don't ask me why. I left the TV on only because it was providing me light. So I was like, okay, whatever. Went back to the couch. I sat down on the couch. Now, I wasn't about to go to sleep. And I called my mom. I don't know why that was the first thing that went through my mind. I'm like, I'm just going to call my mom. I called my mom. I told her what happened. And, she's half asleep. It's 2:00 in the morning. And she was just justifying everything too. She was just saying, you have 2 jobs, you're going to school full time, you're just, probably just tired and, hallucinating or, dreaming this stuff. So, she did comfort me. So I remember just sitting there, the TV still has the snow going on and I'm like, man, and the door's open, I didn't know what to do. So I hung up with her and I'm just sitting there. And I honestly, I was pretty stunned. I guess that's the only way I can explain why I was just sitting there. But I'm just staring at the TV, and all of a sudden, that monk, where he was standing at, he reappears. I just was staring at him, and all of a sudden, he just runs. I'm talking about full speed running down the hall, and I just left. I just ran. I mean, I think I even screamed, to be honest with you. Went into my car. I was prepared, actually. I forgot to tell you that. I already had my keys just in case something like that was going to happen again. I don't know why I had the feeling that, they might happen again. And I jumped into my car, turned on my car. I didn't even want to look at the rear view mirror because I was so scared that if I looked in the rear mirror, he was going to be in the back seat. So I didn't even do that. I was just like, okay, I used my side mirrors to, pull out in reverse, and I took off and went to a Burger King. I just needed to be somewhere and just kind of was terrified for the rest of the night until like 4:00 came around, and I came back to, wake up my client. And I left the door open, which I kind of felt bad about that. I'm like, oh my God, there's somebody just could have walked in or whatever. But that's how scared I was. I mean, I just bolted out. And I just woke up my client, and that was that. So I went home, and I waited till 7:00 because that's when the business with the developmental disability would open. And so I called my boss, and I had told her, I go, look, I know you're going to think that I'm crazy, but this is what happened. And I explained everything like the way I'm explaining to you. And she's just quiet. She didn't say much. And she's like, okay, well, I think we need to have an emergency meeting today at noon. And what she ended up telling me was, she goes, do you remember this coworker that quit while you were working there? Because with the first month that I was there, a coworker had quit. And she said, he experienced something similar to you. So I really totally believe you, of what just happened. And so anyways, we had the emergency meeting. We met in front of that house. It was all of us. It was all three of us, I guess, three guys. And, we're out there and we're discussing, and I told them what happened. And, one guy was saying, well, that explains the lights, that explains the plants, that explains this, and, whatever. And so here's the weird thing. So the manager shows up, and we walk into the house, and where the monk appeared initially was at the corner of the hallway. There was a hole in the ground. What the weirdest part is, I guess it's an older house, and it was a concrete slab. I guess the hallway. So the tiles were gone, and somebody made a hole in through the cement, which I thought was kind of weird because that takes a lot of effort. That doesn't just, you don't just grab a shovel and make a hole or anything like that. So obviously you need some kind of power tool or whatever. I don't know. Really weird. The first thing that my manager did was call the police, because at that point she thought that somebody had broken in and, did something. Not only that, where the monk was running down the hallway on top, it wasn't tile. It was almost like a wooden slats were all on the floor. The plant that kept on moving, broken. It's almost like they just tossed the plant vase down to the floor and just exploded. And so I thought that was really unusual, totally unusual. And, I had told my father about that. And there's, I guess, a Mexican myth that if you see a ghost, there's treasure or something like that, wherever you see the ghost, there's always going to be treasure. And so a lot of people in Mexico, when they supposedly see a ghost, they go over there and dig and they'll find treasure. So I just thought that was kind of unusual. And I thought that was kind of, coincidental that, there's a hole where he was at. So, but that was the story, man. I've never since then, I told my boss I didn't want to work there anymore. So she's like, can you hang out for 2 weeks while we get somebody, to replace you? And for those 2 weeks, I had to have a friend stay with me. So it was either two people to stay with me or whatever. I couldn't do it. I could not go back to that place alone. There was no way I was going to do that. So, So that was the most terrifying thing that's ever happened to me in my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, I would be terrified too. And what do you think the significance of the crow is? Do you think that's just something that you were nervous about and you noticed, or do you think that there's some kind of, symbol there or something like that?
I don't know. I really don't know. It just, it stuck out with me a lot because I'm like, what the hell is that bird behind me just following me? Maybe I noticed it because I was so scared. And I think anything that I would have noticed, I would have kind of attributed it to the whole ghost story or whatever. I don't know. But the thing that sticks out is that I was terrified and I had no reason why. I just woke up and I knew that if I didn't leave, I was going to die. That's the feeling that I got. And so that's what's more confusing to me than the crow, to be honest with you. Like, why did I wake up with that fear, that terror? It was just a horrible feeling. It's almost like somebody got into my mind and said, hey, you need to leave now. If not, you're going to die. And so I did it. I was like, I'm getting out of here kind of thing. As far as the crow, I don't know. And I didn't notice the crow until midway of my ride. It didn't happen immediately. It was just, I was riding down the thing and I heard him. And as I was riding my bike, I looked back, didn't see him initially. And then I see something swoop by and I'm like, what the hell is that? At first I thought it was a bat and I'm thinking scary stuff. and no, it ended up being a crow and it just landed. I was just I was just riding my bike and then it would fly again, land, fly again. It was just weird until I passed this one street. That fear went away and then that crow didn't fly any longer. He didn't fly anymore. And so I stood there for a while, he took off and I decided just to go back home to the client's house.
So you did quit there after that then, huh? That was the end of it.
Oh yeah, that was the end of it. I would have quit the following day, but she begged me just stay there for 2 more weeks. And I told her, I said, okay, if I do this, most likely I'm going to have somebody with me. Are you okay with that? You know, company procedures doesn't allow for that. You know, like they have to be hired or whatever. But she said, okay. So I either had my sister would stay with me, my friends stay with me. Yeah, I wasn't going to do it. I was not going to go by myself. And it was so funny because I had told the story to my friends, and they were terrified being in there. You know, we didn't sleep. I mean, I probably slept like an hour or two, but I would wake up like just genuinely scared to death. You know, I didn't want to be there. So, but it helped having somebody there.
What did the people that was staying with you, your sister or your friend, what did they say about it? I mean, did they believe you? Did they think that you were off your rocker, or were they nervous being there with you?
My sister and my friends do believe me because, like I mentioned earlier, I've had experiences with paranormal before, and they understood that. You know, they already know my past and like what I've experienced, so they took me serious. And so, yeah, no, they were scared to death. I mean, so imagine them being very, very scared, and I already experienced that. You know, it's like it was just a terrifying situation just to be there for those 2 weeks. I mean, it was just horrible. It was just horrible. I mean, thank God we kind of like, brought board games and stuff like that to kind of like pass the time and stuff like that. But, we were trying to change the subject, but any little noise would like set off my friend, like, oh, wait, what was that? That kind of thing. But, no, it was a terrifying, even those 2 weeks were pretty scary. But I mean, obviously that one moment was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah, I had an experience where I was doing delivery to an old folks home, a place where, elderly people stay. I do this delivery, and the door was locked when I go to do the delivery. And so I couldn't go into the building. And so, if you can't go in the building, you can't do the delivery. So I get back in the truck, and I'm getting ready to pull out, and I look in my mirror, and the window or the doors to the basement were wide open. Like both doors were just wide open. So I'm like, oh, somebody heard me knocking on the door and stuff, and they're letting me in. So I walk around inside and stuff in these catacombs in this basement, and I'm looking to see, who opened the door. And I'm looking around, nobody's there. And I hear this like faint music playing, and I can't identify where the music's coming from. It's just a creepy situation. And so I go up in this elevator to the lobby, and there's older people up there, and there's a woman working the counter who actually worked there or lived there. And I asked her, I said, I have a delivery for you guys. Do you know who can sign for this? Assuming she'd say, oh yeah, Harry, who is our maintenance guy, can sign for it. I'm thinking that's who probably opened the door. And she's like, oh, well, nobody's here except for me right now. I can sign for it. I'm like, okay, you can sign for it. Go ahead, sign for it. And so she signs for it, and I'm in the elevator going back down to the basement. It kind of hits me. I'm like, wait a second. If nobody's here, who opened the doors, And so right. I was kind of creeped out, and then I get out of the elevator in the basement, and like I said, it's dark, it's creepy down there. You hear this faint music playing, and I walk through the catacombs again just one more time just to see if I can find somebody. There's nobody down there. And so I'm getting creeped out. Like the hair in the back of your neck standing up, and I walk out the double doors, and I grab one of their carts, and I put all these chemicals on the carts, and I just kind of stand outside the doorway, and I just kind of push the cart into the building and I closed the doors, and I got back in my truck and I drove away. Well, I had a delivery there, months later and stuff, and it was earlier in the day, and the maintenance guys were there. They received it, and I told them the story I just told you, and they said they're laughing, and they're like, yeah, this place is haunted, and that kind of stuff happens all the time. The elevator goes up and down by itself and all that stuff. And I was like, holy crap, like it melted me. I was just like, this place is freaking haunted. And I had a feeling it was, but it was just confirmed. So I just say that story because it's similar environments and stuff. But was the building that you were working in, was it like a very old building that would have, that kind of history to it where it obviously could be haunted kind of thing, like the one I was in?
No, I don't think so. But I would have to say the building was probably built in like the 50s or 40s. It was built with, it's almost cinder block type material. It's not exactly cinder block. It was actually, it was just like a thick, big brick type material. So that's what made the house really dark. The middle of the part where I would stay in, which was the living room, was in the center of the house. And then everything around the center of the house, so all the rooms were surrounding that. So to the right of the living room, you had 2 rooms. To the left of the living room, you had another 2 rooms. Actually, to the right of the living room was just one big master bedroom. And then behind the living room was the kitchen. And so anything that had a room had windows, but they had doors. So the middle of the house was just pitch black dark. I mean, it was just dark. So it was pretty scary. But touching on that, though, I would have to say about 4 or 5 years, or maybe even 6 years later, my sister was attending the university that's there in Las Cruces. And she was taking an archaeology class for whatever reason. She calls me one day and she's like, "You are not going to believe." She's like, "I need to talk to you." So, in person. And so she comes to me and she's like, "You're not going to believe what I found out in archaeology class." She goes, "We were doing something to do with the city of Las Cruces, and we were looking at old plans going way back to like 1800s or 1700s. And it shows what existed in that city of Las Cruces." And she's like, and they overlay streets. They had a way to overlay streets on top of old maps to see what things existed in specific streets and blah, blah, blah. Well, in that area, that particular area where that house is located, there used to be a monastery. This is what my sister's telling me. And she digged in even further, and apparently there was a monk that was hung in that area, and that blew me away. Now,
wow,
could it be the same? Could it be the same monk? I don't know. Was he a midget? I don't know. This guy, I'm telling you, like what I saw, he was a midget for sure. I mean, he was just tiny. It was. If I had to describe him, this is in the dark. I don't know. I like Star Wars, but I don't know what the little guys that have those hoods in the first Star Wars. They were collecting the droids in the beginning. So if I had to describe how high and then somewhat similar looking, that's what I saw. But it was definitely a monk because at least I think so, because he had his hands in the praying position initially. So, but no, that story blew me away. My sister's story just blew me away because, I mean, there's some kind of correlation there, So I was like, wow. So, but I mean, again, that's just, we're just speculating that that's what it was. So, but.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's definitely interesting, man. That's a very interesting story. I know you had an experience at your parents' house too. You want to go into that one?
Yeah, this is interesting. So, I was staying at my parents' house for like a whole year. And now keep in mind, this house was brand spanking new. They built it themselves. There was nothing existing in that area before. So it's not like, they're going into an old house and could probably have paranormal, situations or even having somebody die in that house, whatever. No, that did not exist in this house because it was brand new. As a matter of fact, where the area that they were living in, it was just all, sandy dunes, and they kind of just cleared that away. It's a desert where they live. And so, brand new house. So I'm like, didn't think anything of it. I mean, I'm sure there's not going to be any paranormal situations. But one day I was at the house and I was watching TV, and I love paranormal stuff. And the reason why I like watching this stuff is because of my experiences. I guess it just makes me, I don't know. I feel like I want to know more about it. The more educated I am about certain situations, the more I know, when things happen to me, and it just comforts me that I'm not the only one that's going through all this stuff. So anyways, I was watching this show that I really like. It's called The Dead Files. Have you heard of this?
It sounds familiar, but I'm pretty sure I haven't watched it.
So The Dead Files, it's basically a show where they kind of research, paranormal homes.
Oh yeah, that's right. Places. Yeah, I've definitely seen that. Yep.
And and it's with two people. It's a girl. Her name's Amy Allen, and there's a detective from NYPD, a retired detective. His name is Steve DeShavi, I think. And so how it works is the paranormal researcher or the medium, she's like a physical medium, so she actually sees dead people or whatever, will go into a house, and, try to pick up on, dead people or ghosts and stuff like that. And then the retired NYPD afterwards goes in there and kind of looks into the history of the house and to find out if there was anybody that was dead, if et cetera, et cetera. This particular show, and I can't tell you what episode this was. I was trying to do some research and I couldn't find it. But this particular show was about a man who was having problems, and he had a lot of ghosts. Well, come to find out, the medium says it's demons, not ghosts. And she finds out later on by asking him questions, that he's actually reading these passages through this witchcraft book or like some kind of occult book. And that's what's causing, the ghosts to appear at his house. And that episode, he's actually reading passages on the TV, so like, they're recording it, and he's saying all these passages, and he's reading off, whatever's on the book. And I don't think anything of it, right? I'm just watching this, show thinking, oh, this is a cool episode, blah, 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 blah. And so that was that. So that evening I, went out for a couple of drinks with my friends, blah, 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 came back to my parents' house, walked in. And the first thing that caught my attention was at the end of the living room area, I saw a dark figure, and like, what is that? Because it was, again, the lights were off in their house, and I'm like, at first I thought it was a person, and then I'm like, hello? I'm like, okay. And I'm staring at it, and just staring at it. I'm like, okay, what is that? Okay, so I walk towards it, and it disappears. I'm like, okay, it's my eyes playing tricks on me. That's the first thing that went through my mind. I'm like, okay, this is weird. So I went to my bedroom at the time, and it's a hallway, and got ready for bed, decided that I need to grab some water and go to the restroom or whatever. But as soon as I walked out my bedroom, I could see that thing again in the same place. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I'm thinking, okay, well, it's something. It's the lights are playing tricks on me or something like that, the way the house is set up. First day, I really didn't think anything about it. I was just like, whatever, grabbed my water, went to bed. So then the following day, I come back home in the evening again, and I see that thing again. And I'm like, what is that? And it's kind of moving, It's not static. It's not like just standing there. It's kind of moving. And then this time now I'm paying attention to it. Like, what the hell is that? And the only way I can explain it is that it looks like a tall man with a big top hat. And I was like, no way. I'm like, what? Now at this point, I'm less scared than I was with the whole issue with the monk, and only because I've experienced so many things between the monk situation and this black thing that I'm looking at. So I'm less scared now when I encounter certain things. So I approached it. I'm like, okay, let me go straight at it. And so I go straight at it, and it just dissolves in midair. And like, it just goes away. It was almost as if like my eyes were playing tricks on me. It's like when I'm far away, I can see the thing, but when I come close to it, it's just gone. Maybe I'm just seeing things. I'm like, okay. So I would go to my room, and at this point, I'm kind of like scared of it because I don't like having things behind me. So I would just kind of like turn around, kind of walk sideways, just looking at it. And sure enough, as soon as I go a specific distance, and I've had to give you a distance, it was probably about 7 to 10 feet before I start seeing that thing again. So anything before that. So if I go near it and I get to like 7 feet or 6 feet or whatever, it just kind of disappears. It's just the weirdest thing. So this was happening every day. I mean, I got used to this thing. I was like, but I was scared of it. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I wasn't like totally like okay with it. And it's just, all right. So I just kind of got used to it, and I would just get really scared when I would walk away from it, because the one thing that went through my mind was, oh, he's gonna touch you, or it's just one of those weirdest things, like he's right behind you kind of thing. But no, he would always stay in that area, just that specific place. It's just the weirdest thing. Every time I would go to the restroom, there he is. It's almost like I'm being funny, but it's almost like I made a friend. I'm like, oh, that's Bob or whatever,
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. So I didn't think much of it until it was probably like a month later, maybe even 2 months later, where I was in my room and I'm laying down in bed. I'm staring at the ceiling. And I see an object moving in my ceiling, and it's just a shadow figure. It looked like a serpent. It was just going. It was kind of doing like a figure 8 all over the ceiling, and I'm just staring at it, not afraid. I wasn't afraid. I was just like, "What is that?" I mean, at that point? I'm like, dude, I need to go to the doctor now because I think my eyes are just messing with me. I'm like. When I see certain things like that, I'm in denial. I don't want to believe that it's a ghost. I don't want to believe that it's paranormal or whatever. I'm just like, okay, it's something else. Is it the light? Is it blah, blah, blah? No. And well, I was pretty scared. I actually just put the covers over my head, a grown ass man, putting the covers over my head, and I fell asleep. And sure enough, the next day, same thing, the serpent. Just, what is that? I would turn on the lights, it would disappear, But if I turn off the lights, it's right back at the same place. And at this point, I'm kind of getting scared and worried. I'm like, because one, I was confused. I didn't know if it was my eyes or if it's just something paranormal. So I'm like, this is weird. So again, I kind of dismissed it. I was like, okay, forget it. So anytime that I would go to bed and go fall asleep, I would just fall asleep sideways and then not even bother looking in the ceiling because I knew if I looked in the ceiling, that thing is going to be up there. And so I kind of dismissed it. Another month passes by, blah, blah, blah. And this time I'm asleep. This is like a random day. I couldn't tell you like how long it took after the fact that I'm looking at this serpent in the ceiling. But I hear a little girl, like a little kid, laugh, and it wakes me up. And I'm like, what the F? I'm like, okay. I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, there's nobody here. Okay. I dreamt that. I know. Okay. I had to have dreamt that. There's no way. No way. I'm like, okay, whatever. Maybe a few days later would pass by. Now keep in mind that big shadow man is still there in the hallway. I would see him every day. This thing would not go away. I went to bed, and again, I heard the little kid just laughing at me and just saying, I think at one point it even said like, hey, whatever. No, but it was definitely laughing, and woke up very terrified. Like, okay, this is not just a dream. I know I heard that. I know I heard that. I get really frustrated, in situations like that because it's, you don't want to think you're crazy or anything like that. And you want to kind of just like try to explain what you just, experienced. But I know that was a laugh. I'm like, okay. So a few days would pass by, and, the shadow man's still there. The serpent thing, I didn't see it on a daily. It would just happen once in a while. So there was like a week where I didn't see it, and it would make me feel better. Like, okay, I don't know what that was all about, kind of thing. And so one night, the most scariest thing besides the monk thing, my worst nightmare happened. Because as a kid, I would always be afraid of a specific thing. And I'll tell you what happened. I got pulled off, not completely off the bed, but something grabbed me from my ankle and yanked me almost halfway off the bed. I flipped out, dude. I screamed to the point where my dad walks into the room and he's like, "Are you okay?" And then I'm like, yeah. I just had a dream. I didn't want to tell my dad about it because he's the one that's very, very skeptical about this whole thing. I never tell my dad anything about, whatever. But dude, it freaked me out so bad because that was my worst nightmare. As a little kid, I would always be afraid that a monster would come out, grab me from the leg and pull me. This thing literally like dragged me halfway to the bed. I was like halfway off the bed. So I flipped, dude. I'm like, okay, now we have a problem. We have an issue. So I told my mom, because she's the one that actually really believes me with all this stuff. And she's very, she believes me and she believes in that kind of stuff. And I told my mom, I go, look, this is what happened. You know, I just almost got pulled off the bed, blah, blah, blah. And I told her, you need to get a priest to come down to the house and do something about this. And she's like, I'm on it. So I'll take care of it. I'm like, so, you know, that made me feel better. And it's funny because after that, when that happened to me, I had to sleep in my bed diagonally because I didn't want to experience that again. So I just kind of felt safer. It's sleeping diagonal on my bed, which is kind of funny because every night I'm on, you know, diagonal on my bed and stuff like that. But anyways, I was honestly, after that, I was scared to go to sleep. I mean, I was scared. I was just covering my face. Like that helps, right? But whatever it took. So a few days passed by and I said, hey mom, what happened? Did you talk to your priest? She's like, yeah, but, he doesn't want to come down. And I'm like, why? He goes, I don't know. He's like, supposedly he doesn't do that or blah, blah, blah. And I was pretty upset. Because I'm like, well, what are we going to do? You know, it's like, this is horrible. This is terrifying. And, so again, one night, I go to bars all the time. So one night I was at the bar, came back home, and there's that shadow figure thing. At this point, I'm already like kind of over it. I'm more mad and angry than scared. I'm more like frustrated because I can't believe this is happening. You know, I'm just really upset, just really mad. But at the same time, I'm scared because I remember this night. So what happened was I passed where the shadow man is. I go to my room, get ready, go to the restroom. But I was scared to even get out of my room. I'm staring at this shadow man. I'm like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? So, I didn't want to go to the kitchen area. That's how terrified I was at this point, because after you get, touched, it's just horrible. It's a horrible feeling. Anyways, so I go to the kitchen area, and because I wanted to get some water, I was really thirsty, and I see a bottle of water on the counter, and I was like, great, I don't have to go inside the kitchen. I just grabbed that bottle of water, opened it up, started drinking it. And the first thing that came to my mind, I'm like, wow, this water tastes gross. My dad has a habit of refilling the bottles with tap water sometimes. So that's what I assumed was happening here. So I was like, damn it, Dad. So, but anyways, I drank it because I was so scared that I wasn't going to, go into the kitchen and grab a new bottle of water or whatever. So the next evening happens. I get home in the evening and the shadow man's gone. Gone. You don't understand how happy I was. Like, if I had a smile from, ear to ear, dude, because I was like, oh my God, it's gone. And I couldn't believe it. I actually had to go outside, close the door, come back in just to see if if I'm just seeing things. I'm like, no, he's gone. Oh my God. So I went to the hallway and I'm looking, he's gone. At that point, I realized that I wasn't going crazy. I was not going crazy, or it wasn't my eyes, or whatever. Completely gone. I couldn't believe it. And I was like, what the? So I was happy, So the next day, I'm all happy and blah, blah, blah. And here's the weird thing. So my mom, she's like, hey, do you know what happened to the bottled water that was sitting, on the counter? I'm like, oh, I drank it. Why? And she's laughing. She's giggling. She goes, oh, you remember I told you the priest couldn't make it? And I was like, yeah. Well, he gave me a bottle filled with what is the holy water to go ahead and start spraying the whole entire house. So I drank an entire bottle that was holy water. And then, which is weird, the next day, or that evening or whatever, the thing is gone. Okay, that being said, I've always asked myself this question about that situation. I always wondered, was it me who was putting these things out there? And that's the reason why me drinking holy water worked? Or was it just because it was just holy water that the whole thing just kind of just disappeared? So that is a question that I always asked. That being said, also, the whole going back to the Dead Files, I really believed that episode where the guy was actually saying these spells or whatever he was doing with the witchcraft book caused that to happen, because it was just way too much of a coincidence that when I saw that episode, that's when that Shadow Man appeared.
Yeah, I was actually thinking the same thing when you first started talking about it. I was thinking, I wonder if this is going to be the cause of everything he's about to tell me. Because I often wonder about that stuff. I mean, when you're watching a TV show and they do something like that, because the producers of the TV shows, they're not like, most of the time, they're not really believers in this kind of stuff. They're producing a TV show for entertainment value. And so they look at this stuff as like, okay, yeah, whatever, it's harmless, whatever. But it's not. And so I always wonder, when they actually do that stuff on TV, if it affects people when they watch it.
I believe so. So if you ever watched Ghost Adventures, which is based out of Las Vegas, when they run into situations like that where they're going to either try to conjure something out and they use like these occult books or witchcraft books, they specifically say, we're not going to air, these phrases, or we're not going to air this text because we don't want the public to be affected by it. And it's funny that they're acknowledging that, So I kind of do believe that was the case in my situation. And you never know, someone who's watched that episode probably going through the same experience that I am, or I have. But I truly believed that that's what happened. Because what's the difference between audio from your TV and audio from your voice? So I think it can happen, and I truly believe it. It has happened with me.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, what's the difference between watching a TV show where they do it and inviting somebody in your home to do it? It's still being at least vocalized into your home. And, who knows? Does there have to be intent behind it in order for it to, affect where you live and stuff? I don't know. But clearly things started happening around that home after you watched that show. And one of the things that I don't know how I'd handle is if I couldn't talk to somebody, like for instance, me and my dad, we talk a lot, and I know my dad believes this stuff, and I don't know how I'd handle it if I knew I couldn't tell my parents what was happening inside the house,
My dad has more of a attitude of see no evil, hear no evil kind of thing. So he'd rather just ignore it. So that's his situation. He always tries to, he just really doesn't believe in that kind of stuff. So he'll make up anything to justify the fact what you're experiencing. I'm not upset at him, for feeling that way, but at least I'm lucky that my mom does. So my mom, she does believe me when I tell her certain things. That was the reason why back in 97, 98 or whatever, I called her first, because I know she's going to believe me, so that was, the reason why I did that time. But, the whole Shadow Man, and this is the reason why I got in contact with you, because I started listening to your show and I started realizing that a lot of people are having the same experiences. So when I heard, one of your shows, you were talking about the Shadow Man, I'm like, dude, that happened to me. I can't believe that everybody's seeing this one particular guy, tall. Hey, dude, this guy was tall. I'm 6'2". He was towering me. I wouldn't say he was 8 feet, but I know he was probably like in the 7 feet, realm. And you could tell he's wearing a hat. I think when I heard that show, I don't know what episode it was, it blew me away, because I'm like, dude, it's really weird that everybody's experiencing this one particular Shadow Man or Hat Man or whatever people are calling it. So that's why I was so compelled to get in contact with you.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that experience that phenomenon. I mean, my wife has. I mean, the first episode I ever did on it was with my wife. It was episode 3. I had her here and we were just talking about her experiences. And if I remember correctly, they all kind of started and jumped off with that Hat Man figure that she saw. And it's one of those things where, I've heard about it so much now that I don't know what to make of it. Like, is it one entity that's popping up all over the place, or is it similar entities? I don't know, but it's definitely something that people are seeing a lot.
Yeah, I think it's really weird. I've never experienced that particular guy, you know, that particular hat man. I've experienced some other stuff, but man, so when I heard your show, it just kind of like threw me back a little bit, because I was like, whoa, okay, I'm not alone. Everybody's experiences. I need to tell my story, you know? So, but yeah, it's just, I think there's something to it, I think, for sure.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone, man. In fact, you're far more normal than, you know, you probably think, because I think a lot of people experience this kind of stuff, whether they want to talk about it or not, whether they remember it or not. And I know people forget about this stuff too, because I've had experiences that I've had throughout my life, and I forget about them until I'm talking to people about their experiences, and all of a sudden it pops in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, I actually had a similar experience. And you know, when I started the show, I was like, I was thinking about my life, and I'm like, I really didn't have much happen in my life until I start talking to people, and things just start popping up in my memory. So I think sometimes people just forget that they had these experiences, because if you're not talking about it and you have nobody to talk about it, it just kind of fades away, you know?
Yeah, and they're traumatic experiences. A lot of the time, you don't want to remember those kind of things. So,
no, not at all. Reason. Yeah, definitely. Well, Javier, man, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this stuff. It's definitely been a pleasure to hear some of your experiences, brother.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, thanks for watching the Confessionals on YouTube. If you like what you heard, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, and hit the like button. That would be a great help to me. And if you want more of the Confessionals on a weekly basis, every Thursday I come out with a special show just for members on my website. So if you want to check that out, go to theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the join button, and become a member today. And every Thursday, you'll get a new show, and you can binge on previous shows, which there's almost 100 of them. So if you love the show, go ahead and check it out. But thank you very much for being here on YouTube and checking out the channel.